All right, there we go. Continuing
Yeah.
our discussion.
Um, I was saying that like requiring it, but not saying it's not on the first offense. Are you going to get banned from the project? Being like, hey, because you know we have this requirement. This looks like it's AI generated, like generated. That's fine, but you just need to disclose that. And I think that's either going to push the contributors to be more thoughtful about how they go about doing things, or they're going to leave the project to find a different project where they can get away with it. And I think those are both, or a third, someone continues to abuse it and then we need to remove them from the project. I think the first two options are way more likely to happen, and I think both of those are great outcomes.
Which two? Which are the first two?
The first two is that they are either going to be more like, let's give the hypothetical scenario. Somebody opens a PR, it's very obviously AI generated. They didn't check this is AI generated. And I think that it actually we should include comments among this. That's going to be a little bit more complicated, but I think the comments is a problem as well. But some way of disclosure, somebody doesn't, and it's obviously AI. It's a nice, hey, this is our policy. Please going forward, please just please disclose that you're using AI. It's part of our policy. Unfortunately, if that's not followed, it could be grounds for removal of the project. I think most cases it's going to go one or two ways. One, the contributor is going to be more deliberate about how they go about using their own AI and editing it a little bit more because they know that people are aware of it. Or they're going to leave the project and go to a different project where they can try to get away with just doing, like, not thinking about it at all, putting it in AI, putting it into Claude, whatever, and submitting without thinking about it, trying to target a different project for GSOG with limited effort. Both of those scenarios or outcomes, I think, are great outcomes. I think there is sometimes will be the third where somebody's not really, where it is like true AI
Yeah,
slop,
okay.
and
I
then you kick them out.
yeah, okay,
Like,
I'm following now completely. Yeah, I think people who want to give AI and acknowledge it, we don't want. I,
yeah, but I think that giving them the space for it, because I think right now there's nothing that tells them that they should.
right.
Uh, and so I think the checkbox is great. I think Adrian brought up a great idea within that we might start talking about more of just of figuring out like a GitHub action like from a wider scope, but that's outside of like Augur. But for people to distinguish it and then push that the expectation is if you are using it for even comments that should be disclosed. Um, Again, I think I'm a little bit more weathered on this from prior experiences of people
Yeah.
not putting any individual thought into their code or their responses. And
Yeah,
it's I'm over. Yeah.
so there has been Adrian was the first to observe this back to the group, but there has been for the last 6 or 8 weeks rapid growth in contributions to Augur from lots of people. And do we think that is GSOC related? Because this is pretty early for GSOC.
I I don't know for sure. So I actually I think over the weekend I got distracted and I just threw together a bit of a just trying to gather like okay, here's kind of who's showing up and like I think a couple of them have explicitly said that they're interested in GSOC. I've gotten I think one unsolicited Slack DM mentioning that. Um, I think several, at least three or four of them, of like names that I recognize as new contributors to the project, have also reached out to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm just ignoring that because, like, I don't have a professional working relationship with you yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
so
fair.
it's just like I don't know that all of it is. Like, maybe a lot of it is just they're on a good first issues website and they see something and then they're like, oh, let's go do this. Like, or it's just trying to easy stuff. I was definitely surprised that it kept up past October. I almost thought it was like a Hacktoberfest rush. But then like people
Yeah,
didn't seem very enthusiastic about like, oh, can you mark my PR as Hacktoberfest accepted?
yeah,
So I wonder if it's just everybody learned from GSOC last year how competitive it is and they're trying to get in early.
yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily that makes some sense. And certainly ferreting out the AI contributions, as Callie mentioned, was a significant burden.
Yeah, and
But
that was kind of the driver of why I wanted to file that issue of like, hey, let's put an AI disclosure in here because then it would help sort of identify like if these people are looking for if these new contributors are coming here for Google Summer of Code, we can sort of use like whether or not they're how heavily they're relying on AI as sort of an evaluation criteria. Like obviously we don't want AI slop in the project. And so if there's contributors who, I mean, I would say if there's contributors that are coming in this early and they're making good contributions, like and it's relatively little AI or it's relatively responsible AI, like I think I don't want to like
I
exclude the
actually, yeah,
fact that
no, I don't think that it's like a bad thing if somebody uses AI. Everyone's
yeah.
if they're disclosing it and it's thoughtful, then that's not a problem. I would say the bigger problem is if somebody's not disclosing and they're using it and it's very clearly just straight out of
Uh,
Claude.
well, we're not asking them to disclose right now, right? So
That was my proposal is
part
I
of the
wanted
No,
to
step
make
yeah.
is
kind of an
part of the
optional
step
like
is we need to ask them to disclose.
yeah, so that was kind of my made a GitHub issue, just like, hey, we should like since we already have a pull request template and we already have a checkbox of like I signed off my commits. I was just thinking we could add another checkbox below that, like, hey, I used AI in this contribution, and then maybe give them a little optional space to say sort of explain exactly like, hey, I only used it to like do some code review after the fact, or it generated the first pass, but then I reviewed it, right? Like give them sort of a free space to kind of give as much detail as they want. I was thinking of doing it fairly as like an optional thing, sort of non-punitive, like just, hey, let us know. Because I mean, obviously, event like we'll be able to see that, and it's gonna help reduce the effort of us determining whether it's AI. But I think I kind of also I'm starting to see Callie's point too of maybe it should be mandatory and like a policy thing. Um, so I think that's kind of the core discussion on that right now is do we make it optional or mandatory?
I think the question I have is what does that expose us to with regard to copyright infringement issues?
I mean,
Like I'm
I mean, I
asking,
would think that because we're having people sign off with DCO, like that should theoretically be them attesting to like, hey, I've checked and I'm able to share this. Realistically, I don't think anyone's actually like
yeah.
checking
I
It's
mean,
to see
again,
not
if their
being
code
brought up
is
at
similar.
all within like this is a topic that's pretty common within that people are talking about a lot within Red Hat's OSPO, and I don't the
don't,
copyright concern has not been there, so I'm not
uh,
concerned about it.
yeah.
Considering we talk about this is something that we discussed with our legal team and
I,
stuff like that, so I don't think it is a concern.
I think there's certainly enough layers in between us and the copyright infringement that it's not our problem. Um, all right, that's good to know. I'm not going to worry about that then. I mean, I think I was trying to put down key principles, and I think the first one is, oh, you don't want to read paragraphs of prompt. Yeah, I don't either. Okay, that's a good point. No,
I was mostly thinking it was like, hey, what tools were you using, or like how like, hey, maybe I used Grammarly to help spell check because I'm not a native English speaker and I'm making a contribution to the README, or like, hey, I used Claude to just first pass this function, right? Like stuff like that. That's just like you kind of like maybe talk about the tool, or mention the tool you used, or like vaguely how it was used, just to give some details, right? Like kind of just as a way to give us more information to help like easily evaluate like is this person using AI responsibly or are they not? And like if they just had ChatGPT write the whole thing for them and didn't check it, then I'm probably a lot more likely to not want to put effort into reviewing it because I'm not going to be filtering someone else's ChatGPT output. Like I'm more likely to just close that if
so
it's
I mean, I think it's what about asking for a link to the session? Because all the AI I have used lets me save a link to the session I use.
I mean, do we really want to look into that? I'm actually kind of against like I think that opens a whole can of worms. I think that like I guess for me personally it would be like even just saying, "Hey, I used Claude" would be enough. But that's just kind of I just think that's where I think that is a entire can of worms that I don't want
yeah.
people to be required to show their yeah,
Well, I
I
mean, I
kind of
also
think
think
that.
like the idea of I think the key benefit of doing this in the pull request thing is because it's just an easy little checkbox and maybe a sentence or two. I think the more effort it's going to take to fill this out, especially if it's mandatory, like you're starting to approach the same level of effort as like having to go back and sign off your commits. Like that's a fairly complex process. Like that's a fairly high hurdle in and of itself. So it's like If it's more complex than that, where you have to go back to your chat session, save the link, copy the prompt, like it's just going to make it a lot less likely that people are going to fill this out. Um, so I think
Yeah,
that was kind of the idea behind it being optional. Like, I just want it to be like the lowest barrier, easy, because then we're going to get
yeah.
the most, hopefully the most people disclosing. And then if someone doesn't disclose, like I've sort of was thinking of it being optional as like if people choose not to disclose and we find out later, that's a choice in and of itself because now we know we see you didn't disclose, we found out, now we're mad. Like now it's kind of like, hey,
Well,
you were given a clear chance, so it's almost like
yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and I can tell the ones that are AI still, and it's most of the new people right now. That not to say that they aren't thinking about it. I'm just saying that the disclosures should be pretty, like I agree with not requiring it, but I also think we ought to be expecting a lot to get disclosed.
part of well, I
And
think
then
also
I
part of it
feel
is
differently.
I'm
If you're
pretty
expecting it, then require it. Especially like for people like I'm also like looking at this from a lens of people who are not native English speakers or not or autistic or
Yeah.
different neurodivergent. If the expectation is to do it, require it. If you're going to penalize people for something that is optional, I'm really
I
against
see.
that
yeah, I see
actually.
that.
I see what you're saying. So what, I mean, you think it should just be not optional and we don't penalize? It's just kind of voluntary. Tell us if you want to.
No,
I
I'm saying
think
that it should be required. If somebody doesn't do it,
Oh,
then it's nicely pointed out. Hey, this is a requirement.
I see. Okay.
Please
yeah.
follow. And it's not like you're it is a requirement. We're not going to say you're not going to penalize them on a first like you know what I mean. Somebody does it, we'll just kindly point it out to them. But if somebody continuously does it, then yeah, then we discuss. And there's probably other things that'd be obvious. But again, I do feel really strongly about the requirement portion if it's something that is going to penalize people.
Yeah, I that makes sense. I realize how what I was the way I was saying it earlier sounds very contradictory. So yeah, no, that I think I'm on board with that.
So require it.
Require a disclosure, yeah.
Require disclosure, but just and we can honestly like just put in the maintainers chat pinned like the like a just a written out response of hey, so that we don't have to like think about it each time. See someone's tell
I've
us
actually
AI they didn't have it, copy and paste the prompt, and we keep on moving.
very recently I've actually started also using Git. I guess GitHub has a saved replies feature, so like I can write like a template reply and like save it in my GitHub account. So and then like as I'm going to call like reply in a pull request or something, there's a little button in the little that little bar where you can do the text formatting that you can just drop down, click one of your saved replies, and it just dumps it at the end of your thing. So I have a couple of them set up for like, hey, we should talk about this on Chaos Slack. Here's the link, blah, blah, blah. Like I've just sort of templated that and then I'll just dump that in and mildly edit it if needed. Um, so having something like that, yeah, that people can set up would be nice. Um,
I just
do
think
we
it'd be good to
also,
have in the maintainers chat because then everyone can make their individual
yeah,
one. I just think that low like just low
yeah,
thought
exactly.
is best when we can do
Yeah.
that.
The maintainers what? Where?
Our maintainer,
Chat.
our channel on Slack.
Okay.
Um, I'm also kind of interested because I'm definitely coming in this from a different perspective. Like you guys obviously have a lot of experience with this AI, like AI stuff, being able to see it.
I,
I think
I,
I've
Adrian, I
not been
actually think
super.
it's our experience before AI that allows us to quickly identify things that have had an AI contribution. Does that make sense? So it's not that we're AI experts, it's that we know what it looked like before there was AI.
I mean, I feel like that would apply to me too. I guess what I'm
Okay.
saying is like you guys were here in this project through the last round of
Yeah.
GSOC
Yeah.
and like saw that shift in okay, these contributions got worse. Like this is kind of how to recognize AI. I think I'm probably still at the point where like I can definitely tell when it's like, oh, this code's not designed the way I would design it. But it's like I'm still unsure of like this could I mean I'm sort of maybe giving too much benefit of the doubt still. I'm maybe not jaded enough yet where I'm just like this could be a human contribution from someone who doesn't have very much software experience.
Right.
So I think I've maybe been spending more time than maybe necessary. Like if these are all AI contributions, I've probably been spending more time than I should
Yeah,
Well,
and
trying to
exactly
help
the
coach people through
disclosure
designing it
portion of
better.
it And then it's disclosure, and you know to turn that lens on automatically. Because again, I don't think it's necessarily like if people are using AI to help themselves, not a bad thing. It's whenever people are not putting any individual thought or filtering that we are the first people reviewing their AI output. That's more of the problem.
Yeah.
But I think it helps. It's like I said, if you think about your review process of, hey, even just having the context right from the beginning, hey, this is AI generated, I used Claude. Like, cool. Then you have that context is already there and probably saves you some time.
Yeah, that would definitely help. Yeah.
I put a comment in the notes that I think just to explain why to people, really for me, the most significant issue, the reason I think this is important now is that because people aren't declaring AI, I spend a decent amount of time, depending on the size of the PR, sort of trying to figure out how AI was used or which parts are clearly AI. So, and I review them differently. I review them with not assuming, if I think it's AI generated, I don't assume somebody's run the code, for example. So if somebody tells me whether or not it's AI generated, then I can save a lot of time in my reviews. I don't have to try to
Yeah.
figure it out.
I mean, ideally, we should also not be assuming people have run the code in general, like maybe have a checkbox for that. But
Yeah.
I feel like my approach, especially with the GitHub issue, has mostly been I've been trying to approach it just from a very like AI agnostic standpoint, as far as like I want to have a standard that we just set for every contribution
Yeah.
and just apply that evenly, right? Like if you're submitting stuff that you didn't review, regardless of whether it was AI, like don't do that, right? And I think but I think, I mean, AI definitely, like, there is a difference with AI. I think if people are using AI without checking it, that puts them a lot closer to that line and potentially crossing it than just having written it from the human's side. So it's like,
Right.
it,
But I think there's a big difference between a standard and your personal review process. Like how I think and like review code is different if it's heavily AI generated versus completely human generated. And that is
yeah.
what I've developed as a skill. So I think that's the standard versus like what you're looking for. Yeah, it's just those are two very different things to me.
Yeah, no, but I think it's two parts of the same like system, right? Like I want to have the as far as the standard thing, like that's sort of more at the policy, the code of conduct level of like, okay, as a project, like sort of you can't cause us like you can't waste our time as maintainers and stuff. And then, I mean, the disclosure is a piece that helps with that. Um, I feel like I felt like I want to make sure, have this sort of be, obviously the AI disclosure is kind of unique to AI, but it's like I kind of, I'm not sure quite how to explain it, but like, I don't, I feel like I don't want people to necessarily feel like we're singling out AI. I mean, we kind of are.
I mean,
It's
we
trying
I
to
are.
think
figure out
when
how to
you're
walk
like
that balance.
principle, like what we want it to be and what it actually is are two really different things. Like it's just yeah, this is like I these aren't the same and they shouldn't be treated the same. Like it's just an evolution of how we work. It's the same way that like I don't view a review comment from Code Rabbit the same way that I view a review comment from a person.
Right. That's fair. The same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to disparage AI use. I've come rather quickly here over the summer to accept that it's part of how people are working now. It's more about, I think really it comes down to Kelly's comment in chat. It's about reviewer burden. I think it just lowers the reviewer burden.
Sean, can you add in Kaio's comment into
Uh,
the like notes? I think it's a good
sorry.
like set of comments or just questions to consider for when we set.
Yeah, the version or model piece where Kyle suggests recording the version or the model.
No,
I
a
think
good question for
further down,
disclosure would be.
like, what is your AI stack?
Oh yeah,
I mean, that could be a nice little thing to put as bullet points under the checkbox of like, hey, AI was used, and then like sub bullet points like, hey, what's your AI stack? Kind of give some template questions to help people fill in details.
All right, this seems like a good
Yeah.
pause. I just want to
Yeah.
talk about things that aren't
Hmm.
cis.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Do you want to move on to PRs, Adrian?
Um, yeah, I don't know if there's much to do. I mean, I definitely want to talk
You
with
said
you
there's
about
one left to merge. So my question was, which is the one? Because there's a lot open right now.
it's the one in the version 91 milestone. It's my
Hmm.
hierarchical configs one. Um, yeah, I figured that might be better. Like I know we kind of were suggesting like, hey, this might be important later. I sort of implemented this for this release just because I think was it I think Leia some of the contributors that were in chat seem to be using sort of the manual some of the relatively newer people seem to be using the manual method of deploying Augur because I think that's the thing that's sort of listed higher up in the docs or it's sort of presented
Yeah.
first. Um, and a lot of the config changes that we've shipped in this release for like changing the recollect intervals and stuff. For manual installs, you need to make like actually go and insert those into your config table
Yeah.
to change them, and Augur's going to probably crash if you don't do that. And I would really like to get away from. I think in previous releases we've used the database migration system to insert those, but I really don't think that's what though that migration system is mostly for structural schema changes.
Yeah.
And I think and this kind of allows that hard-coded defaults and also a JSON file
Yep.
is provided to sort of be a fallback. So if the value isn't in the database, it can kind of come
Hmm.
from one of those other sources so that at least there's a default if someone doesn't set it.
All right. So I've reviewed this before and given it a like I
Yeah.
understand exactly what's in here, and there was I think the only reason we didn't merge it last week is that some of the Docker stuff was failing.
Yeah, I fixed a lot of that. There was a lot of
Yeah,
just
no,
small
that's all
things.
working now.
Um,
Somehow we let a misspelling get introduced though, which isn't in this PR. It's in some prior PR that so have to fix that down the road.
I'll check it out. But yeah,
This looks ready to
hopefully
merge.
this.
I think
Yeah.
this is ready to merge. I think it's just a question of um, if you want to merge it tonight or if you want me to try to get it merged before tonight.
I've been pretty soon to be good. Oh, look, I think those two, I've seen those two misspellings before. I think those are just, I'll look into them, but I think those are fairly, I think I was ignoring those just because they're
They,
in some of the testing code,
that's
like some
right.
of,
Somebody introduced the spelling, the typo
yeah.
when they
I don't want
added
to
the
like
testing.
rename whole
Right.
folders of files. Like that just seems a bit out of scope for this PR. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why I left that alone.
Yeah. I think what
Um,
happened was some tests that already existed got actually declared. Uh,
yeah, because in part of this
which is
PR, as I
good.
pulled in, I kind of updated some of the unit tests.
Yeah.
To
So I think it's all fine. I'm not worried about the
Yeah.
typo. I was just like saying I noticed it.
But yeah, I mean, I've been
Hmm.
testing. I sort of have been merging this. I have like a local branch where I've merged this as if it had been merged to main, but only locally, so I can just sort of build Augur, run it all together with everything that would be in this release. And I haven't found any problems so far. Not that my testing process is necessarily that thorough. It's just sort of run Augur and see if it breaks. Um, I'm pretty confident in merging this though. So I don't know if you want to merge it right now, and then
Yeah.
you can
Why
start
don't
your
we?
testing process today for the release, and then we can
This
sort
is
of
this
discuss
is
the details
this
tonight.
has been reviewed and tested pretty extensively,
Yeah.
and it was only the Docker stuff that kept us from merging it last week. So, um,
Yeah, I definitely know Callie's been waiting for a release for like a week now, so we should probably yeah, this is
uh,
kind of the last piece to be ready for that.
all right. So with this, then we think that all the PRs, all the PRs that we tagged in release 91 milestone.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, cut 91 now and then we can and then because I think there's a few other pull requests that are pending that I was like these look ready to go, but not for this release. Like I don't want to have more things in this release than we need to. Um, so once you cut 91, I can sort of start marking those more as ready, and we can start clearing through a lot of this like big pile of PRs.
Well, yeah, I guess when you say ready, what you really mean, okay, this is the
Yeah, I usually mean the ready. I've been trying to be pretty thorough about tagging stuff correctly.
so then this would be the release PR that now includes everything in main.
Should do, yeah. Is there anything you need from me on that? It looks like it's still a draft, but I mean, I imagine you're probably going to go through and test it and do your normal process.
I mean, basically by testing main, I'm testing this because this is just the release. So assuming everything builds, because when we just did that, when we merged that PR, we triggered all the build stuff on this PR.
Yeah, so we can probably wait for that to
Yeah,
finish.
if
But
this works out, then I'll mark it ready for review because I think it is now.
sweet.
All right.
I think that's kind of all I could think of for the agenda, at least.
Yeah, same here.
I have a complete sidebar. Which
We
I was
are
curious.
recording.
Oh yeah, I mean this isn't anything controversial. Uh, right now we're going through the process of having like a branding refresh for 8 Knot. So the designer on our team is like working on kind of a refreshed 8 Knot logo. Um, and she had asked, she's like, "Oh, is there any other logos like Augur and all like kind of listed all the different things?" And I was like, I hadn't thought about Augur, and so it's is that something that we would like her to take a look at? Is that something that
If
should stay under the purview of chaos designers?
look, we are not branding experts. If there is someone at Red Hat who's willing to help Augur have a brand, we're all for it. That would be fantastic because
Okay,
we haven't thought
I'll just
about
address
that
it on it.
ever. Like,
Yeah,
or when
I'll
we,
just tell her.
yeah, when we thought about it, we created that dumb logo we have. And so, like, we're open to any branding changes that,
Hey, it's better than some of the logos I've made for other side projects that are just like stick figure people and like very basic shapes assembled into vaguely
yeah.
sensible other
You know,
shapes.
Derek Howard, who's like I'd call him the main initiator of the code base, he created the logo back like 6 or 7 years ago. It's not a bad logo, but it's also 6 or 7 years old, so we're open to however you want it to be rebrand. Any rebranding is good as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know anything about branding.
Yeah, I'll just tell her that she's time. Take a stab at it. Let us know.
And
Yeah, I really.
I don't have any like strong feelings about the name of the project. If they want to rebrand that, that's fine.
Oh, I don't think we should change the name of Augur.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we do. I'm just saying if some branding person tells us what to do, I know they know more than me.
Yeah, she's a designer, not really like a brand. Like,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'll let her know.
cool. Thank you.
Was that all you had, Kelly?
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Okay.
I'll probably show the new. Y'all haven't even seen it, but we'll probably be talking about the new 8 Knot logo. It's pretty much the same. It's just matching onto the color scheme of the new 8 Knot. Um, so yeah, I don't really have much else. Looking forward to the update, and yeah, all good.
Sweet.
I don't have anything else to add.
Since we got a few more minutes, I think Sean, your mention of Derek and sort of the origination of his code base sort of reminded me actually. I think we were going back and forth a little bit earlier today, and a little bit before on. I think there was some. I mean, one of the new contributors was kind of helping with some database schema stuff, which yikes. But like in general, I think this, especially sort of, I'm kind of doing my little no tech debt November push. Like I'm trying to see how like is there stuff I can kind of clean out
Yeah,
with Augur in terms of like duplicate code and just stuff that's gonna potentially get in the way of work that we might be doing next year as far as maybe potentially adding new data sources or just otherwise kind of growing Augur and improving it.
yeah.
Um, it seemed like I think the particular PR in question was I think Callie, you noticed a while ago that a couple date fields in one of the tables were strings instead of actual dates.
Oh yeah.
Um, And it sounds like Sean, you had some potential concerns about like, is there a historical like could we
So
maybe
yeah,
this is this way because of
so
random
this,
date formats, some other
yeah,
things.
so the specific place where this came up was in the Libier table. And so there are some dates in Augur, and in the commits table, there are date fields that are actually varchars. There's no reason for that to be the case other than legacy technology choices that predate even Augur. They go back to Brian Warner's facade. In the case of Libier, that became a timestamp varchar because the package managers 3 or 4, I guess 4 or 5 years ago when we first created that, we're not we're not at all consistent about how they shared or didn't share date information, whether it was an actual timestamp or just a year or a month. So there was a range of formats that to deal with them, we just went with a varchar field. I think now the universe is more known and we could make that change, but for the specific change I reviewed, we'd have to go through and make sure we're error handling things that are not actual date fields so that we're either converting them or saying something about them. So it's the incoming data that I'm not sure we have error handling for if we change that. Um, and I need to take a 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yep, no worries.
Um, yeah,
So it sounds like that kind of database, that change for the repo Libier,
yeah,
it's
that's
possible. It's
specifically,
just we
yeah.
need to handle like make sure we're sort of handling date the same way we were for like the commits, where it's like we have a way to like
If it's not a
catch if
valid
there's an
date,
invalid date and stuff.
right, we're doing all we can to catch that before it hits the table.
Do you think that would be possible? I know one of the ideas I had when I was responding to your comments was like, could we just introduce a second, like another column where it's like we have the timestamp date and we try and get everything in there if we can, but then if there's just we can't parse it or it's just a
Yeah.
weird edge case, we just put it in a string column and then downstream projects can try and handle that if they want to.
Uh, yeah, I mean,
That seems like a bit of a weird way to like I'd rather not introduce new columns if we can avoid it, but
I
if it's
mean,
between that and losing that historical data for especially for older, bigger instances, like
yeah, I mean,
I guess I would want to look into like how much size does that really add? Like if it's like negligible, then cool. If it does, I don't really have an idea. But like because we have to remember the scale that we are dealing with and that how much like adding a column brings into it. I mean, and for me, I don't really know.
I mean, I don't think adding a timestamp is going to be a significant additional physical storage
No, not the
cost.
timestamp. I'm all about the timestamp. I'm saying adding an additional column to
Yeah, I
handle.
mean, yeah, I
the
guess
thing.
I don't think it'd be too bad.
Okay,
Well, because like
cool.
the additional column was mostly just me thinking like, okay, if we were to change this to timestamp, how would we do it, right? Because every database that is currently existing uses a string for this, and so we need to convert all those values to a timestamp as part of the migration. And so, like, if there's an edge case, like, do we just drop that value? Like, I feel like that would be not good to just be removing data from people's databases. But like, if it's an edge case, like, I don't. It's a lot of these discussions I think that would be helpful to have.
Yeah, it looks like there's a for the latest release date, it looks like pretty consistent data. For the current release date, there's some number of nulls at the top.
Yeah, maybe like that's kind
There's
of why I was
also
suggesting, like, Sean, if you want to go through and kind of get a good sample of like, okay, are most of these values pretty sensible? That like having a set, like a good set of like, here are all the different date formats that you could that at least we see in the 100,000 repository instance.
yeah, everything's looking actually pretty well formatted in the current release. I mean, in the latest release date. Like
Yeah, you might only be looking at
things
a
are
subset though.
we might have been formatting, but there's definitely
Yeah.
ones with time zones and without time zones. And most of the ones without time zones are actually defaulted to January 1st, 1970, which suggests that that's just our default date.
Yeah. I think it's definitely worth some kind of offline investigating too.
Yeah.
But it seems like in general, like I was sort of a little worried with this pull request. I was like, is there just general resistance to changing the schema at all? Which it doesn't seem like there is. It was just this
No.
particular case. So
For me,
um,
it's just I will always raise the question of, okay, here are some things that we need to be sure to test. Like
yeah,
I have no canonical dislike of schema changing.
yeah,
I think sometimes folks that haven't lived with databases their whole lives
yeah,
don't understand the sort of dependency chain that
yeah.
happens in databases. That like if you just throw something in and then the database operations don't work, that actually causes a lot more downstream problems.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the things. That's why I was kind of like I sort of snuck in some unit testing in that PR you just merged just to help test my changes in that PR. But I think that's also helping set up for another branch I have going, which is I want to really get some of the unit tests coming back. And one of those is like, okay, we need a database that you can actually hit and query for the testing purposes. And
Yeah,
I think the process for setting that up is rooted in sort of the manual steps. And I'm trying to just like, hey, can we just throw up a Docker Compose with just a
yeah.
test database?
No,
Um,
that was. I don't know if we got that merged yet because I know.
no, it's not. I haven't even pushed it yet, but I'm working on it. Um, Also, another quick kind of database question. So I know we've got a couple of tables that are very sort of high traffic tables.
Yeah,
I think contributors is one of them, and it
contributors
sounds
is the
like
most significant one of them, I think.
yeah, and it sounds like that table, like from previous discussions, is updated in two halves. Like one half comes from Facade, like Git clone, and one half comes from GitHub. And I think I was talking to I think Callie earlier about like, hey, can we or talking to someone earlier about splitting these tables potentially? Like if they're already coming in two halves anyway, could we just split them into two tables? And then I think there were some questions about potentially like it would that cause do you have any early thoughts on that, Sean, about what would that cause any kind of operational issues as far as like making sure that we have the same contributor sort of like making sure it's consistent across both? Like do we
Yeah, I
only
mean
have a contributor
the re
ID?
the reason it's one table is it was a design choice to resolve contributor identity in one place. Um, there are there are two sources ultimately, and the way that we treat those sources is that because we get commits after we get the core collection, we almost always have the GitHub identity for people who have made commits that are in the commit log in the last 10 years. Um, and so we will resolve those identities where we can. We can't always, but oftentimes we can because we can hit the commit API on GitHub. So that's why we use one. Because although you're correct, there's the GitHub API as a source, including all of the other data in it. And then there is the Git log translation that Facade uses. we have one table because it's trying to reconcile the two. That doesn't have to be done in one table. There are other different architectural choices that we can make.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're pretty tied into GitHub specifically, though. Like, is that going to be a blocker when it comes to adding
Well,
better
GitLab,
support for GitLab and
no,
4GO and other things?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Because I feel like it might be interesting to like have it like sort of like how we have the like an aliases table. Like, actually, we can take this discussion somewhere because we're close to time, but
Yeah, it's
that's
something
kind of what I'm thinking of is like, can we like I want to try and like as I'm starting to refactor stuff, like keep in mind like how do we make this flexible so we can add more sources, more APIs, more everything
we
like
did.
in the future.
I think this is a good discussion to perhaps have in the next Augur meeting because it is central to a lot of the things that people care about. And the history of how we've gotten where we are is worth 5 minutes of a larger audience, probably. Because, and I say that because a lot of the challenges that we'll come across are challenges that we made specific choices about in the past. And so I think with the frame of the past, we can just, here are the questions I think we need to answer about resolving contributors. And so I don't think the solution that we came up with is the perfect one, but there are a certain set of cascading problems that are worth bringing up at the next meeting.
You mean like next week's the next in 2 weeks thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just threw a little future
I
section.
mean, we can also discuss it other times, but I guess Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. I don't know. I'll be here.
I'm technically gonna be off. We'll see if I end up actually
If
showing up or not.
it's fine, we can discuss it in a month too. That's totally fine with me. I just wanted to make that known. But
Well, I
yeah.
think also like in a month, like that's gonna be kind of just like you're kind of getting towards the end of the year. I don't know. We can chat async probably. But yeah, I'm just seeing if like how much of this kind of technical stuff can I get resolved? Like how much of this just all like stuff that's old and in the database that's just there for some dumb historical reason that doesn't need to be there anymore. How much of that can I clear out? And especially like I want to try and tackle as much of the harder stuff as I can because the easier stuff we can do over time.
Yeah.
So if there's areas that you think don't already have an issue, file issues for them, mark them as tech debt, and we like I'd love to chat about them. I'd love to try and get as many of those just solved as I can. That's kind of I'm trying
Yeah.
to see if I could do that whole no tech debt November, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
If I'll chat with you in Slack about it
yeah.
because I got another meeting coming up.
Yeah, we're already like a minute
That,
over, I guess, if we're doing the 50-minute
yeah, we are.
thing.
So yeah, I will I think that's it for today. But let's talk about tech debt tonight, Adrian. And
Yeah.
on Slack.
Definitely.
All right. Bye.
All right, great.
See you
Talk
guys.
to you later.